Hi, Mitchell Levy, global credibility expert, and we're at one of the favorite times of the week where I get a chance to speak to a very special human about their values, and it's the coolest thing. So come and join me, and I'd like to welcome Tony Martignetti to the stage. Tony, it is great to have you with me.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm thrilled to be here.
Super
it's
cool.
Good to reconnect.
It is. It's been. We've had some good conversations over the time frame, and I've enjoyed getting to know you and interact with you. And my first question is kind of a softball question. And Tony, who are you?
Yeah, well, I'm the Chief Inspiration Officer at Inspired Purpose Coaching, the founder, and beyond that, I'm an author, podcast host, and a speaker. Well, those are all titles, but it doesn't really define who I am. Who I really am is someone who is a curious adventurer and someone who's a grounded optimist who loves to advise leaders and teams who want to be fulfilled, lead with purpose, and make a meaningful impact.
So I love all that, but we need to drill down into sort of true values. So curious adventurer, what does that mean to you?
Yeah, I mean, ever since I was a young child, I've always been the person who keeps on looking at the next shiny object and saying, well, why is that the way it is? And what else is there? What else is there to know? And so it's driven me to explore so many things. And when I say adventure, I'm always off into new adventures. Sometimes those adventures require me to actually travel to new places. And sometimes it's about just learning new things and exploring new hobbies and learning new things about different topics.
I hear the word shiny objects, and that doesn't always land to me as a values-based thing, as the person chasing the next shiny object. So yeah. So tell me what that means.
Yeah, I love that you picked up on that, because this gets me in trouble. There's a sense of, like, if you're not careful, curiosity can be something that can be a slippery slope. If you don't finish the thing that you start and you don't see it all the way through, you may not see the gold that is waiting at the other side of that thing you started. So patience has to go hand in hand with curiosity. So
it's not just a shiny object, because this was interesting. You said since you were a kid, you went after the shiny objects. Is it the shiny objects because, so let's take a different route on that answer. Is it the shiny objects because it's the next cool thing that's there, or it's just that you're so curious you have to unravel it?
It's more the latter. When I say shiny objects, it's because a lot of my friends and people who knew me used to always see me as that person who's like, my attention is being pulled in many different directions. And it's because of that undying curiosity. And I loved that, but I also at the same time, I recognize the downside of that, like I said, is that you got to be careful not to be pulled into too many directions, because it can be stressful. And you don't want to miss the gold and the things that are still there, that are right in front of you.
So what is the gold? What is it what's right in front of us? What do people often miss?
Yeah. Well, first of all, if you have people in front of you that you haven't really had the time to really have deep conversations with, or you haven't gotten to know at a level that is beyond just the surface, then you may miss that these people have everything you need to expand your horizons. And they could be the mentors that you're looking for right in front of you. But you think that because you need to continue to expand, that maybe it's not about expanding, it's deepening that you really need to do. Make sense?
Yeah. Give me a scenario where that may have happened.
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, I think a scenario where that has happened in the past is where, I've had people who I've gotten to know over the years where you know, I've seen them as they're an expert in X, or so finance, finance experts. The reality is when we judge people based on just what we see on the surface, the finance expert, then what happens is we don't understand, well, what else do they have to offer? And so an example is, I had a friend who was a finance professional who I used to know for many years. I didn't know that this person also has deep expertise in understanding like NLP and how to work with people on that level. And so getting to know that person and understanding their people, the connections that person had in that space was powerful. And through that person, I was able to get connected to a wealth of resources in that NLP coaching space.
Ooh, okay. So it's getting deep. It's truly understanding that person or that thing. I think isn't that part of just doing things right, where it's not just the next shiny object, but it really is making sure that I guess you are answering the question. It really is making sure you do whatever you do and do it properly.
Yeah. And I think on the surface, we sometimes see someone as just one thing. We can't limit people to what we see on the surface, putting people in boxes. I use the finance example because I think there's a key thing to that. I was a finance professional as well. And I often saw myself as being, well, I must show up a certain way. I must be a certain way because this is the title that I hold. But in reality, we all contain multitudes. And when we get to know different parts of ourselves and of other people, we start to expand the possibilities of what we can do. And when I had that mind frame, I started to see that there's probably more to the person in front of me than I originally expected or originally thought. So it's really overcoming that bias. And it's about getting curious about this person in front of me and saying, I wonder what else.
Tell me, what other attributes do you put into place in terms of what you call your values? What are some values that you actually live by on a day-to-day basis?
So I love talking about values, and I've used this acronym of CMAP to really encompass all of the things that are my values. And the reason why I use CMAP, because I love adventure. So seeing the map is important to me. But there's a play on words here because it's C as in like connection, compassion, and curiosity. And then the MAP stands for mastery, adventure, and positivity. I know there's a lot of values, but I really do take them to heart. And I'd like to take a step to just talk a little bit about each one of them super quick. So connection for me really means creating meaningful human connections, not just, connecting for the sake of, okay, this is great. We're in connection right now, but really to go deeper, as I said earlier. Compassion, spreading kindness, but not just to others, that I start with myself, that it's important that I keep compassion for myself, having grace in those moments when maybe not treating myself as nicely as I should. And curiosity, I think we've covered that, but really asking more questions, digging deeper. It's not about going wider. Sometimes it's about going deeper. Mastery is one that usually gets people triggered because they think like, oh, is that about being perfect? It's far from it. It's about starting to really see where I can continue to get better at being the best self I can be, not about being perfect at anything. Adventure is all about taking the leap, being courageous and trying new things, and getting uncomfortable. And then lastly, to think, act, and be positive, even in the darkest of days, trying to adopt that positive attitude and flip it around and see what's possible. So, sorry to bore you with details, but I think I wanted to give a little more preamble to why I choose these values and how they show up.
No, I hear it, but it's like 3 C's. So is it 3C map? It's CCC map. Like I just wanted to point out that you had more than one C there. And when I think C map, I think SEA, but then it was really CCC. So
it's the 3 C's, the 3 C's map. I'll have to think about a good acronym, but it's close. We're getting there.
Yeah. 3 cubed map. I don't know. Well, I'll think about that when I'm not thinking about you and this. So what I'm hearing in there from a credibility perspective, intent and commitment to do the right thing, being a servant leader, and being what's really important. People always miss this. To be credible, you have to be credible to yourself first before you can be credible externally. And too many people don't quite focus on that by itself. And I love the fact that you mentioned the importance of being true to yourself first before you're true to somebody else.
Yeah. It's impossible to really be the opposite, or at least do it well, because you have to make sure you're resonating internally so you can really project externally well.
How come people don't do it?
Well, because their immediate thought is that, the quickest way from point A to point B is to start moving outwards and do it quickly. But the reality is you have to go in. It's like go backwards to go forwards. You have to go backwards to go forwards. And that's the way that you get that connection to what really is by understanding what's underneath it all. What's the foundation? Once you have that foundation built, then anything that gets built on top of that is strong and resonant with that foundation.
So I'm a big fan of seeing the world in an optimistic, positive way. Why is that important?
Yeah, because there's a lot of things that thrown at us, and that are thrown at us, and uncertainty is like the norm. And so we have to always be thinking, how do we trust in the future being a positive and uplifting scenario? Because it's the only thing that gives us hope. If we look at the world and the future from a view of it's only going to be worse than it is right now, then you've already defeated yourself from being able to create something more powerful than what is.
I'm still sitting here. I'm trying to think about if I was not that person, right? If I was what many people call a realist. So they're not necessarily, they won't call themselves glass half empty. They'll call themselves realists. And I'm clearly, one could categorize me, maybe not even as glass half full, but maybe glass overflowing. Right. So I'm not sure I got what you just said. I mean, I didn't, if I was sitting there in the camp of a glass half full, you didn't hit the spine.
Yeah. So let's think about this moment here. Let's just say that, like, a year from now, you're trying to put a vision together of what you want to accomplish, and you limit yourself to say, well, it's not possible for me to be doing this job that I've always aspired to. Let's say you aspired to become the CEO of a company, and you say to yourself, well, it's not possible because I don't have X, Y, and Z. And you start to kind of like, put yourself in this mind frame of, there's too many things that are going against me, the economy, and what about the pandemic? It's still, it still lingers around us. There's a lot of things happening. All these things are going to get in the way of me becoming that CEO that I want to be. And, there's so many things that are uncertain. What happens if the CEO of my company decides that he's going to stay for, a longer period of time, and therefore there's no slot that opens up. And so you just start to kind of go in this negative spiral. What if they find out that I'm not good enough, that kind of stuff. And I say that that's really what you're starting to do, is you're putting yourself into trajectory to become that person already. You're already putting the mindset around what is going to be your fate, because you're setting yourself up for a future that already has all these limiting factors on it. You're showing limitations because of the words you're using to create your future. They say that words create your world. So positive, uplifting, optimistic words will create a much more powerful and empowering future. So if you do that, even if the future is not exactly what you envision, it at least puts you on course to something more powerful than a negative, self-defeating, limiting world.
Dude, you knocked that one out of the park. Thank you.
Yeah.
That was good. The part of what I'm thinking about is credibility is the quality in which you're trusted, known, and liked.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't have to be positive all the time to be liked, but there are definitely attributes of showing up, and probably as important, you need to like yourself, really, for other people to want to like you as well. Tell me, when you work with people, what do you do? How does those words resonate? How do you focus on that? If, let's say, somebody didn't like themselves, what do you do?
Yeah. I first of all start to ask them, like, where did this come from? Where did this start? What caused you to believe that? And see if there's some examples in their lives that have really caused them to start to have this belief land in their psyche. And once they start to see that, maybe it wasn't really something that they had to believe, it's just something from an external environment that created that, then maybe they can switch those things, and I can get them to think, what else could be possible? What else could a belief that you could have could change your view of the world in this situation? And that's what I really, I try to get people to think. I often talk about expanding your vision and narrowing your focus. And what that's all about is really getting people to see new possibilities in their lives. And then narrowing the focus allows them to take action. So it's expand is the idea vehicle, and then narrowing is the action vehicle. The problem is, if people are stuck and they don't believe in themselves, they don't see possibilities, they need to take a step back and see what else, a new way of thinking. And that's what we work on.
Nice. It's so interesting. Our educational system is focused on us being cogs in a wheel and working to a certain age, and then we officially retire and do what we really want to do. But you have adventure as part of your 3C map. Mm-hmm. And you actually follow what you think. Tell me about why is adventure important? And didn't you just take one?
Yes, I did. I just got back from going to Tanzania, where I spent some time climbing Kilimanjaro. Something that was a long-term adventure, but also something that resonated with me when I wrote my book, Climbing the Right Mountain. I had someone ask me, what's the next mountain you're going to climb? And immediately what popped out of my mouth was, well, Kilimanjaro, of course. So that's what really called me to it. I would say that the journey was truly amazing and challenging in equal measure. And the safari part of my journey in Tanzania was also truly a gift. Just, experiencing animals in their wild, natural states. It's just something that you cannot experience in a zoo. So, but just adventure in general, when you think about it, everything I do is sort of an adventure. I mean, taking the leap out of the corporate world and starting a company, is an adventure. And it's something that every day I feel like I'm hit with something new and exciting. And I have to be challenged to take that next leap. So yeah, that's my life.
That's who you are. Hey, Tony, based on this conversation and where we've gone, is there a question that I should have asked you that I didn't?
Yeah, there's one that I always love getting asked. And I think it's because it's embedded into, the fiber of everything I do, really, which is what inspires me? No one ever asked me that question.
Oh, let me be one of those people then. Tony, what inspires you?
Yeah. Well, what I love is I love it when things from different worlds come together and collide. And when I say that, it's like I'm a big fan of art, And I'm a museum nerd, I'll call it. Architecture is my thing. I love that stuff. But I also love it when the natural world collides with museums, or when art and science come together and they make music together. There's something about that really inspires and engages me and gets me to think that we can take different things and bring them together and make something really beautiful out of it. And in some ways, when I see the leaders who I work with who are doing amazing things in the world, and I see them create new ideas by collaborating with others, there's nothing better than that.
Give me an example of something that's recently inspired you in one space that you brought to another.
Yeah, that's great. Well, first of all, one of the things that did inspire me recently was I was recently went to a museum, and I was looking at some artwork that basically had to do with taking a steel box and putting a light source inside of it. And what was interesting about it is this sense of like when the light is off, it's just a box, a metal box with some designs on the outside. You can't really make sense of it. But you put that light on inside, and what happens is it illuminates the room, and it just it creates something magical. Okay. And so what I've done is I've worked with a few clients where I've had them create their own example of what the magic box is. What would the light going on inside of you look like once you illuminate and put it out into the world? And that is something that when you bring art and people's thinking of what they want to create in their work is really cool. And I've seen some really cool things come out of that, just some people sharing their thoughts about what their magic box is.
Nice. And did you do this for yourself?
I did not do it for myself. To be honest with you, I have not. And I think for me, if I were to do it for me, I would probably create something along the lines of, it would be something different on each angle. Every single part of the box would have something different on each side because I couldn't choose one. So it would be nature. It would be art. There would be so many different parts to it. And I love science. So
it'd be sort of a STEM. Let's see, is that a STEM focus?
Yeah, it'd be more than that.
Yeah, right. Yeah, because you need the arty side. Fascinating. Very cool. I'm curious though. Is there? You can't bring up client names, but is there one box that somebody created that you just go, oh my goodness, I didn't realize these things fit together?
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to use the example of like one person who put like their family on one side and showed that like the work that they do, it's their child inspires the work that they do because they're working in healthcare, and because of the reason that they do the work they do is because they know that the health of their child is everything to them, and they can only imagine that there are parents out there who worry every day about the health of their children because they are suffering from diseases and what have you. And on the other side of their magic box was the image of a DNA symbol and representing this sense of like using science to solve problems. So it's really cool.
Nice. Very cool. I'm really glad I asked that question and kept poking because I was curious. Right. So if this is of interest to you, if you're paying attention, you think, wait, I need to talk to Tony. He sounds like someone that I might want to work with, or at least have that initial conversation with. Tony, how best can people reach out to you?
Well, the best place to find me is to go to my website, inspiredpurposecoach.com. And when you go there, you can take my leadership journey assessment, which will help you to identify where you are now and where you want to head. And it'll give you some great insights as to where to get started. So that's the best place. I'm also available on all the social media. LinkedIn is probably my best known spot.
Perfect. Well, Tony, thank you so much for spending time on Leaders Living Their Values with us today.
I'm grateful. This is a great conversation. I really appreciate your having me on the show, Mitchell.
Oh, my pleasure. And this is now, listen, if you're still here, this is time to spread some of Tony's cred dust. So click on the like button, share with your friends, right in the social media platform or whatever platform you're seeing this in, right in the aha moments that stand out for you. And the one thing I'll share at the end is Garen, if you could throw up the Ultimate Credibility Bootcamp URL. We're just gonna, for those that are interested, if you'd like to truly dive in and spend 2 days to align yourself with credibility on and offline, and to be able to articulate in less than, are you ready, the average human attention span, 8.25 seconds. If you want to articulate who you are and how you serve, and then align it on and offline so you can come across in an extremely credible way, I'd love to see you at the Ultimate Credibility Bootcamp. And once again, Tony, thanks so much for spending time with us today. And for all you who are watching and stay to the end, thanks so much. Spread some cred dust. We'll see you at the next episode. Take care, everyone. Bye now.